Okay, so it's Jazz London Radio, and today we're doing a special program. Now, this is in honor of International Women's Day, a tradition that I started on Jazz London Radio either 2015 or 2016, where we do an extravaganza of tracks by women lasting 3 to 4 hours. We've been doing it every March the 8th since then, and it's been very well received. We do lots of tweets, Instagram posts and stuff, and people really get into it. So every now and again, we get someone in just to talk about, music and women's music in general. And today we got Faye Patton with us. Now, Faye is a really interesting artist who I've seen a couple of times in London. Well, I think more than a couple. And she plays, well, she's a multi-instrumentalist, and she could tell us more. So how are you, Faye, today?
Hi, Laurie. It's really nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hi, absolutely welcome. Now, so I say we do this thing for International Women's Day, but I would like to reiterate, we don't just wait 1 year to play music by women. I do this every week on female instrumentalists and female vocalists on every Monday on Jazz London Radio. So we just love playing good music. And with that in mind, I would like to first ask you to tell us a bit about yourself and what instruments you play and how you got into music.
Yeah, sure. Well, as you say, I'm a multi-instrumentalist, but my specialities are guitar and piano. And I have a show that I do with my lovely band where I do set one, where I lead the whole show from the guitar, from the electric guitar, using material from my album Soul Retrieval. And then in the second set, I migrate to the grand piano, and then I do material from my current release, Soho Nights, and also include some jazz standards. And I guess I grew up in a very musical family. It was a long time ago where we didn't have the internet. We didn't have many avenues to entertain ourselves other than music. I grew up in the countryside. I was born in the 70s. We didn't have much apart from our own amusement and Top of the Pops, and that was about it. And everyone wanted to be a musician. Everyone wanted to be on Top of the Pops, and I guess I was the one in my family who just kept on taking that ambition to its limit, and then years later found myself in London teaching music. I'd studied theatre.
Wow.
And ended up teaching voice. And yeah, I'd learned instruments as a kid because everyone did. We all had access to the most basic piano and the most basic guitar, and we just took it from there. We were all writing songs as children, and yeah, what can I say? I just didn't stop. I didn't stop, and here I am.
And also, I should mention you sing as well, so you don't just play instruments.
Yeah, absolutely. And I write a great deal of my own material, but I do love jazz standards as well. So I try to include both.
Okay, just on a quick tangent, musical, it's not really taught as much in schools as it used to be.
No.
Which is
No.
a shame.
Yes, it is a shame.
Okay.
Yeah. I was lucky in my childhood because we did have some good music at school, but mostly I got a lot of my education at home. Yeah, and I'm very much an autodidact. I've just picked up stuff and shown myself how to do it. But luckily, I had the immense luck and good fortune that my dad was a classical guitar tutor. So I could just learn a load of classical guitar material off him at home anytime I wanted. And the music that's written for the classical guitar is, in my opinion, very much more inspiring than the kind of stuff that classical pianists have to study as children. I think guitar music is much more versatile, and guitars are much more versatile. So I actually ended.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I'm sorry. I was going to ask, is that because there's a Latin element to it?
Yes, there is a Latin element. There's a gypsy jazz element. There's less of a sort of conservatoire. This is formal music for formal people to listen to. There's a blues element as well. There's the whole Django Reinhardt tradition, which is very virtuoso playing, but the kind of thing you could play in a Paris street busking. It's much more of the people, I think, the guitar. And it's one of our first, second to the drum, I think it's one of our most primal instruments. Variations on a string strung between two trees, I believe, was one of our first instruments. I think the drum was the first, but I'm pretty sure the guitar was the second.
Fascinating.
That's my theory.
Fascinating, yeah. Julian Bream, who passed on either last year or the year before, he was a very interesting classical guitar player.
He was, and he was the teacher of my teacher.
All right.
Yeah, Julian Bream and John Williams were the teachers of my teacher, Robert Boyle. So, and of course, they were students of Segovia. So my classical guitar method is only a very short amount removed from Segovia. Yeah.
Well, that's great. And, you know, I was going to ask you, knowing that you play piano and guitar, which one is your primary, would you consider your primary instrument, or are you actually adept equal in both, which would be something if that's the case?
I would say that I've got more formal training in guitar because I did all the grades and it was the first thing I picked up. So I'd say I've got more academic prowess, but the piano, to be honest, is an easier instrument to play. It is much easier. You can put a chicken on a piano and a chicken will play a tune. The guitar, there's more difficult moving parts. So I'm not as adept on the guitar as I am piano, but it is definitely my first love and it's the thing I come back to more and more. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I wish I could agree with your assessment, but I can't play either. So, but you know, I was thinking, because I've seen you, you know, play both, and the only person I know who actually professionally, prominently in performances in public or on record, who played piano and guitar was David Sanchez way back in the 70s. And I think he ditched the guitar because I don't recall him playing guitar after a certain period. He stuck with the keyboards. Obviously, he went on to play with Sting and lots of other people. But in the 70s, he played on some Stanley Clarke records and other things, playing some quite wild rock fusion guitar. Do you know of any other artists who actually, maybe Prince?
I would have said first and foremost, Prince comes to mind.
Yeah, that just came to mind as I was talking about. I can't think of anyone else. Can you?
I can't think of anyone off the top of my head. Prince was, for my generation, almost the sort of supreme influence, I suppose, because he was so versatile. And I'm glad that he's getting mentioned early on because some of the artists that we were going to talk about today have played with him. And Prince was such a sort of polymath, and he gave an immense platform to female instrumentalists up until his last.
Yes.
So he inspired us all to realize that we could do both. Yeah.
Okay, marvelous. Yeah, he was a great artist. Sadly, I never got to see him perform, but I enjoyed a lot of his music from beginning to end, as you say. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So basically, what we're going to do then, we're going to talk about some of your sort of influences and artists you've chosen for your for this podcast.
Yeah.
And what we'll do is I will ask you to name the artists in it. And what we'll do is we'll, at the end, just play all the tracks one after another. So instead of me asking you to say, oh, I like this artist, then we play a little excerpt and then you, no, that's a bit, I don't want to do that.
Okay.
I think this way will work better. And I think the audience can enjoy the tracks in flow. So how does that sound? Yeah.
That sounds like a great idea, Laurie. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. So first of all, I want to ask you, who's the first person you've chosen? I think it's Emily Remler. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've chosen Emily Remler. She was such an incredible influence. and she achieved a lot at a time when things were difficult for women in jazz and women in music. And her output was very versatile. She went through a sort of Latin phase and a trad phase, and in the 80s released some wonderful kind of pop stuff. And her technique was amazing. Her sense of timing and rhythm was amazing. She's influenced me a lot because she's helped me become more swingy. She had like this famous Emily Remler swing thing that she did.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got some wonderful teaching videos of her with her wonderful gravelly accent.
She did.
Yeah, it's so kind of characteristic. And she's got her metronome on, and she's teaching you how to jam with yourself with your metronome, but always on the offbeat. So you're always swinging. And it's a great discipline. And once you start practicing like that, you just always are swinging, and it's a very different feel. And yeah, I love her for that. I found her videos incredibly instructive.
Yeah, she was absolutely incredible artist. I really started getting to know her music just before she died, which was, such a pity back in 1990. But I've got quite a few of her CDs. I've had them for decades now, and I still play them on the station. So yeah, she's got some wonderful music. Which track have you chosen?
Well, there's a few. We've got Deep in a Trance and Round the Bend, and they are both from her release This Is Me, which you actually sent me, Laurie. You got me into that because I wanted to get into that recording and I couldn't find a copy of it anywhere. And those are both from what I would call her sort of more poppy. There's some synth pads. There's a kind of pop feel to it, a lovely kind of fusion feel to it. And we've also got Del Sassa and From Searching, which is from Transitions. And I've chosen those because there's just so much mobility in what she's doing. And also her kind of Wes Montgomery kind of thumb octaves. They're just very characteristic of her playing. So that's what we've got from her.
Oh, wow. I look forward to listening to those. Fantastic. And then next you've chosen Tal got to pronounce the name properly, Wickenfield?
Yeah, Tal Wickenfeld. Now, Tal
Wickenfeld.
Wickenfeld, she has played with Prince, and she's played on his most recent release, Welcome to America, which she actually posthumously released about a year and a half ago, which I got. Right. And she's playing on all of the tracks there. She's also very well known for playing with Jeff Beck, who, as we know, died recently. And so everyone's suddenly kind of listening to Jeff Beck again.
Yes.
And she released her first CD in 2007. And we've got a track called Serendipity from that. And the reason I love her so much is the strength in her playing, the strength in her hands, and the movement with which she covers the bass is extraordinary. And her own compositions, they just haven't dated at all. And I think she released that first CD when she was maybe like 17 or 18, really young.
Wow.
So strong, but so young.
Now, she's an Australian, isn't she?
Yes.
I'm always interested to hear the backstory, how someone from Australia ends up in America playing that kind of music. I mean, Frank Gambale, who came decades before her, it's always an interesting story. So, I'll have to check that out one day. I'm sure there's some...
Yeah, there is a story, Laurie. There is a story. You can see her interviewed on Australian TV, and she actually said that she left school and just went to LA. She just couldn't be bothered with education. She knew she wanted to play bass, so that's what she did.
Okay, I'll have to check that. That sounds really interesting. All right, so next you got Mimi Fox. So
Mimi Fox.
Yes, yeah. Mimi Fox.
Mimi Fox is an American artist. She's quite trad. She's sort of in the Emily Remler, Deirdre Cartwright sort of tradition. And her latest release is called One for Wes. So it really is another one of these homages to the great Wes Montgomery. And it's just wonderful, the material on it.
Is she quite young, or has she been around for a while?
She's an absolute veteran. And yeah, she's really worth checking out. I don't think we've heard of her much in the UK because she's so much kind of ensconced in the US scene.
Okay, that's interesting. And what track did you choose for this one?
We've got Judy's song from One for Wes.
Judy's. Okay, marvelous. And next we got Deirdre Cartwright, a friend
We've
of
got,
Jazz on the Radio. She's done many a show with us
yes,
and
she
played with the
has.
Jazz on the Radio All Stars.
Yes,
And a
yes.
very nice person.
Absolutely lovely person, and I would say a national treasure. I'd even say a global treasure. I've gotten to meet Deirdre in recent years, and gotten to sort of hang out with her and socialize with her. But I was always a fan because I remember her on Rock School on TV from the 1980s, and I never actually thought I would get to meet her. And I've gone to see her live quite a few times, and I sit in the front row and I study her playing, and she doesn't get a note wrong. She absolutely does not put a foot wrong. And she has recommended some very good guitar, one particularly good guitar book by Mick Goodrick to
Oh,
me.
Mick
And
Goodrick.
it's a very good guitar book. And her way of playing is a little bit unusual because, if I remember this rightly, she's detuned one of her strings, or maybe two of her strings, in order to circumnavigate the extra sort of interval that you get on the third string. So she's sort of homogenized her fretboard in a way, so she doesn't have to make that adjustment, which I think is fascinating, which makes her playing even more amazing because she's playing a
Yeah.
slightly different tuning setup than the rest of us.
So she's innovative, which is always an interesting thing to hear as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
What track did you choose for Deirdre?
We've got X Factor.
Mhm.
We've got X Factor from her album with the Deirdre Cartwright group, and the album is called Precious Things.
Yeah, okay. I think I heard a story where she said that it was sort of in homage to Mike Stern's Chromosome from Time and Place
Ah,
album from 1988.
ah,
Yeah.
how
Talking
lovely.
about Mick Goodrich, I saw him play. He's fortunately he passed on as well now.
Right.
But I saw him play with Steve Swallow's band at Ronnie Scott's
Oh, wow.
many years ago. Yeah, he was a great player. The Boston Sound, which I think they called it, him, Pat Metheny, John Abercrombie, and John Schofield and Mick Frizzell.
Oh, wow.
That's the sound. They said it was kind of like disciples of Jim Hall, is what I heard.
How wonderful. I'd
Yeah.
love to have seen that. Yeah.
Right. So next we have Rhonda Smith. If you could talk about her.
Okay, so Rhonda Smith is an electric bass player, very, very funky, kind of slap bass, kind of soul, jazz, funk, and she's very big on the American scene. And we don't hear of her much in the UK because I think she's just very, very busy. That whole scene is
Right.
huge in America. And I didn't know about her until recently. And again, it's because I was checking out Jeff Beck. I was going on a whole Jeff Beck retrospective,
Yeah.
and she's played a lot with him live, and she's played with Prince a lot. And what's amazing about her is that her playing is so technical, and
Right.
she has such a good attack with slap bass, and she can build a whole track around it. She also sings and she composes as well, and she has her own label called Slow Wine Records. And she's very much a veteran of the business, and I think that I would guess that she might be in her mid 60s,
Wow.
very, very young looking.
Yeah.
Releases her own material, and I had a dickens of a time choosing a track because her output has been a lot,
Yeah.
and she's just been a very busy session player. And maybe we don't know so much about her because she's been so busy behind the scenes doing session playing, and didn't start releasing her own material as an artist until about 2007, I think.
Oh, right.
She released something called IntelliPop, which was beautiful kind of jazz pop, probably too jazzy for the pop world, which is why IntelliPop was such a good title. And then Ray of Light, she released in 2012. And the track that we've got to play is called Ray of Light. Just a brilliant virtuoso technical player, really worth checking out.
No, that really does sound interesting, and she sounds an interesting artist. And yeah, I suppose at the end of the day, doesn't matter how good you are as an instrumentalist, if you don't put output out on your own in your own name or compose, then there's always an possibility that you won't get as noticed.
Yes. And on that note, I think there's a problem with the way that women are marketed. And I've noticed this quite a bit.
Mm,
If you don't have a picture of yourself playing the tool of your trade,
mm.
if you're quite glamorous and all about the image and people just look at the image first, they'll assume that's not you playing. They will.
Really?
They'll assume that's not you playing. And this happens to a lot of artists, which is why when I do my stuff, I've always got the tool of my trade. No one's going to mistake that think that it's someone else playing my
Yeah.
instrument. Yeah. And you wouldn't necessarily know that about Rhonda Smith unless you saw her playing live a lot. And I recommend checking out Live in Las Vegas with Prince, because you can see her playing live. And she's very unglamorous. She's there with her glasses and her kind of overalls, just being a very kind of
Overalls.
technical. Yeah. She's just very much kind of a technical session musician, rather than a sort of front woman pop
Yeah, I
star
mean
kind of thing.
that there must be a message in that. It's like what they used to say about a football team. So I remember one of the great Dutch teams, and one of the players said he was the worker, like the bees, like in the middle of the pitch, and he did the groundwork for the guys up front to look good, to do all the the finishing and everything. So there is something to that. There must be
Yeah.
something in there. All right, that's fantastic. So next we have Yolanda Charles.
Yolanda Charles, the
Mm.
wonderful Yolanda Charles. I've been very careful to pick some women that are national treasures, and Yolanda is a national treasure. And I love her playing so much. She plays with such joy, and she just lives for the groove.
Mm.
And because I know her socially as well, we've had some great conversations about the importance of groove. And again, groove is everything. It's everything. And her tone is excellent. Her pocket is excellent. Her songwriting is incredible. And the reason I've chosen this track, apart from the fact that it was the easiest to sort of get to because she's in the process of releasing stuff,
Right.
and this is the first sort of thing that's available. It's called No ID, and the lyrics are so intelligent. The songwriting is so intelligent, and it's got a real message to it. And if you see her play live a lot, it's often just instrumental stuff.
Yeah,
So to
that's what I
have
was
something
thinking.
that's got like a proper song format is a real gift. There's a lot going on in this track.
Okay,
You
and
can't stop listening to it.
is she singing on this track, or is it she's
She's
got
not.
some?
She has two guest vocalists that sing in very, very beautiful, precise harmony on her songs. She's just laying down the groove, doing what she does best.
Yeah, I remember I saw Yolanda at, I think it was called the Canary Wharf Festival, which no longer exists, going back just over 10 years. And it was a really nice festival, actually. It used to be on Friday and Saturday, if I remember, up to Saturday night with a big audience. And I remember she came on her saxophone, went straight into the crowd, and everyone was getting really excited about that. So yeah, no, she's a good artist, very talented. And then next we have Larry Basilio,
Yeah. Lari Basilio
or
is
Larry.
yeah, Brazilian,
Okay.
and I would say that her style is a sort of cross between jazz and metal and
Jazz
rock.
and metal. Oh,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, it's a kind of new
Oh.
jazz metal rock fusion, and I've got her album Far More. And again, I had trouble choosing because one of her standout tracks is actually Man in the Mirror with Cider Garrett
Really?
doing the original vocal. Yeah. And what they've done together with that track. So Lari is playing all this incredible it's a little bit sort of Joey Satriani, the electric guitar playing. It's very legato, very fluid, lots
Yeah.
of hammering all over the fretboard with very little effort. And she's the signature artist for Ibanez. And she plays a
All
signature
right.
purple Ibanez with a kind of floating bridge and a Floyd Rose kind of setup with lots of kind of tremolo bar, very much using the electric guitar as almost as a voiced instrument that has its own voice, which
Yeah.
is what Joey Satriani was sort of famous for. And she's got him playing on some of her stuff as well.
Okay.
And her stuff, apart from the Man in the Mirror version, it's no vocal, it's just instrumental. So
Okay.
it's real musicians' music music for nerds and guitar players. I love it, and she is amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing how big metal is, music is in South America. I know that for a fact. It's massive. Wonder why. But so,
Yeah,
yeah,
I wonder why. I wonder why.
there must be a reason. Someone will tell me one day. So Larry Basilio. So I think that does it for our selection. So I'd say thanks for your time. Really enjoyed this actually, and well, good luck for your new release, which I'll be playing on the station.
Thank you. Thank
and,
you.
I'm going to say something that Peter Erskine. I've heard Peter Erskine say. I was lucky to interview him about 3 years ago. What a great guy! But he said that Jacko told him before one performance to have fun, which he said no one never told him that before. So he always like uses that now. Wherever he goes on stage, he just has fun. And I suppose that takes the pressure off in some ways.
Yeah, so important, so important. And I need to be told that every minute of every day, really, because I am a workaholic. I'm known for it. I'm very, very driven.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've all got to get the fun back in every single way.
Get the fun back.
Let's have the fun back, please. Because musicians, we've turned what other people do for play, we've turned it into work.
Yeah.
So we have to get the play back within the work. Otherwise, there's no point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, fantastic, Faye. Thanks a lot.
No, thank you. I've loved. I could talk about music non-stop forever. I'm such an anorak. I just love it. I love chasing down the facts. I love chasing down the players. I love chasing down the unusual thing that you didn't know. I love chasing down but this person knows that person, and that person played on the Blues Brothers, and that person turned up later on and they knew each other because of. It's so interesting. It's endlessly fascinating. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I love the way you love me.
Your love's a ray of light.
I was blind, but now I can see.
Your love's my way of life. Before I knew you, I stopped trying, thinking of past memories. I wasn't willing till I met you to open up, but now I see that I love the way you love me. Your love's a ray of light.
I was blind, but now I can see.
Your love's my way of life. I'm a student of life, you see. I would never pass upon a chance to be in your life. Your life, your life. Teach me, heal me, feel me, let me learn to live in your life.
I love the way you love me.
Your love's a ray of light.
I was blind, but now I can see.
Your love's my way of life. ritual flow of authenticity, duplicitous society. We are born, yet who are we? Are we really who you see? The story superimposed is just another label, can't be denied.
Jesus killed the blind man so that he could see the evils of the world. Perchance blind is but dark thought overcome by the light. Maybe Judas was the better man and Mary made a virgin just to save face. I too am so ashamed on my bending knees, praying to my pretty white Jesus. They say you're the way, the light is so blinding. Am I not to question? Your followers condemn me. Your words are used to enslave me. Hear my prayer, my sweet Jesus, Jesus. I heard that you could save me. Dear brother John convinced himself of his wisdom to judge, to forgive, condemn. Mother Mary full of grace, I'm so confused by his pale white face. God so loved the world, he gave his only son. While many mothers bear children, martyrs of greed and bitter love. While the so-called chosen